Well, hello, avid readers. I am so excited because I have a new friend, Catherine Witzaney. We are talking about an award winning book. First of all, that's so cool. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, welcome, Catherine. Why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Trisha. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast. I am Catherine Witzaney. I am the author of the award winning Wingless cycle series, which is a middle grade epic fantasy series for probably about 9 to 14-year-old readers, and it follows a world of little tiny warrior sprites. The main character, most of these sprites have wings, and our main character, Asher, was born wingless, so it's a bit of a disability. And his quest in Wingless is to try and save his sister. So that takes him on quite an adventure of self discovery and, yeah, goes from there. I've been writing for about, seriously, for about a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
Wingless came out in 2024, so it was my debut novel, April 2024. And this year, obviously, it was the Realm Award winner, which I was super honored by. The sequel just came out this year in September,
Yay!
so Clanless is now available everywhere. And I'm in the thick of edits for book 3 right now, so that's exciting. And it's hopefully coming out in early 2027. I live in Alberta, Canada with my husband and my baby daughter. When I'm not writing, I like baking bread and I teach piano, and I have a lot of nieces and nephews I like to hang out with. So, yeah, it's pretty fun.
Oh, so cool. And I love middle grade. And I'm about a third, not quite a third of the way through it. So there's adventures, there's sprites, but there's bats, there's butterflies, there's hornets, there's a mix of different creatures, which we'll get into in a minute. But I love that it's middle grade because when I speak like at homeschool conferences, parents will come up and say, "What do you have for my middle grade reader?" Because if there's a middle grader that loves to read, and I remember I had my second oldest who's 32 now. I feel old, but we go to the library and she just read book after book after book. And as a parent, it's hard to get books, first of all, that you trust, that are clean, but yet are interesting, have these wonderful worlds where that middle grade reader loves. So first of all, I love that it's middle grade, but I would love to hear, like, how did you get interested in writing for middle grade?
It's a great question, and it's awesome you brought up homeschooling. I was homeschooled, so I was one of
Yay!
those voracious, crazy readers as a kid. And actually, middle grade was the age that I enjoyed reading the most.
Mhm.
I loved it, and I was, you go to the library and you check out tons of books and you're reading
Mm,
through them all. Interestingly, I actually, when I set out to publish, I kind of thought I was going to do YA, which is young adults,
oh, yeah.
so the teenagers. And that's what I originally wrote Wingless to be. But
Mm,
once I got to the publishing side of things, I kind of realized that it didn't actually, as a story, work super well for the YA age range. It's a little
mhm.
bit tough to convince teenagers that stories about tiny little winged creatures are worth giving time to, whereas you don't have to work hard to convince middle graders that that is a really cool story idea, because it's fun, right?
Yeah.
So I wound up pivoting and deciding to convert it to middle grade, because it did require a little bit of changing. And I'm so happy that
Mm,
I did that. It was because of the advice of an editor at a publishing house that was like, you know what? Why don't you give this a try? And I hadn't considered it. But it reminded me that my real love of reading sprang up in that age
yeah.
range. I've forgotten that, because as you get older, you start reading older fiction, and you still enjoy it, but I really enjoyed books when I was in that age range. They were so much fun. So I'm so happy that I did make that shift. It works way better in that dynamic, and their middle graders are so much fun. I
Yeah.
love I love talking with them. I get emails from readers and stuff, and they're so excited. They're so passionate about their favorite book, and it's like, wow, okay, I love it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, and it's just that you can just get swept away with their imagination. I think, yeah, the YA, the young adult, it has to be more angsty. There has to be kind of a coming of age story, like all these other things, instead of just this pure fun adventure world. And I love middle grade books. My favorites, I mean, I love like Charlotte's Web. Currently, we just finished Pippi Longstocking, so I'm teaching high schoolers, and then we're doing essay writing. And I picked middle, like kind of Pippi Longstocking type books to be the books that they read. And one of the parents is like, "Why are they reading this?" And I said, "The essay is going to be hard enough. Kids are
Mhm.
having to read a book and write essays. Like, let's have fun with it." And the parents like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, it's been great. That's such a great age group.
No, it really is. It's so much fun. I'm very happy, and I will probably always be writing. I do plan to write for older ages as well, but I will always be writing at this age range. It's so much fun.
I love it. Okay, so you talked about this as your first published book. I would just love to hear about your publishing journey. And you mentioned you're homeschooled, so that gives you more time in a different way. Not homeschoolers just sit around and do nothing all day, but often more time to develop your own unique creative gifts. At least with my kids, that has for sure been the case. Talk about just your writing journey and what led you to become a published author. Then we'll talk more about the book.
Okay, yeah, I started writing probably as young as it was possible to start. I think I was probably about 7, and I it was because the series that I was in the middle of, which is the Unicorn Chronicles, I was waiting for book 3 to come out, and it took 12 years, I think, for him to release
Oh
book 3.
no.
So, I was like, "Fine, I'm just gonna start writing my own stories," and I just discovered I loved doing that. And I did do a lot of like picking away at little stories that I would type up. I'd one paragraph per chapter kind of thing, and hand to my parents and stuff. But as I got older, I realized that this is actually really fun. I want to pursue this more seriously. And I think I was a big fan of the Aragon books by Christopher Paolini in my teens, my
Yes,
early teens, and of course he was a homeschooler who, very
from
famously
Montana.
got
Yes.
published as a teenager, right? And so that became my goal. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to write a book and get published in my teens." And obviously didn't quite work out that way, but I'm actually glad that it didn't. I finished my first full-length novel at the age of 15, and it was terrible. It was so bad that I didn't go back and read it again. I was like, "Nope, I'm not even going to try." And I just sort of put it aside for a little bit, focused on some other things. So I was very busy, as most homeschoolers are. I was riding horses and pursuing piano at a high level and all of that. But eventually I came back to the writing because I just found it to be so fulfilling to be able to explore the lives of characters and all of that. So I actually wrote some fan fiction for a while because it was an easy outlet and a good practice, and I got feedback right away from people online that were reading. So that was really great incentive to
Yep.
finish things. I wrote 2 full-length novels that way, a couple novellas, and then I finally started working on the original idea that was behind Wingless.
Uh-huh.
That
Oh,
was Yeah, that was about 10 years ago that I got the first
yeah.
inklings, and I finished the first draft in 2017 and was so excited.
You're
I
like,
went and
"It's
pitched.
done." Yeah.
Right? I had the chance to go to a youth, writers conference in the States. I don't know if you've heard of the One Year Adventure novel, but they have a
I
summer
have,
workshop.
yes.
Yes,
Daniel
I did their program.
Schwarzentruber. How do you
Yes,
say his
Daniel.
name? Yeah,
Yeah.
Daniel.
Yeah, but anyway, I was there. I got a chance to pitch to an agent. I was so excited, and then I came home and realized I didn't know how to edit it. It was a mess. So I tried. I rewrote it several times. Just wasn't working. Put it aside
Mhm.
again for a couple
Yeah.
years. Got married, moved, decided to come back to it, and then I actually switched main characters and started a whole new kind of story
Oh,
within the same world. And that was what Wingless ended up being. I wrote that in 2021, edited it, and myself decided to hire a freelance editor because I wanted the experience of getting
mhm,
feedback from
mhm.
someone that was professional, and then jumped into the world of querying, which is where I discovered that it was not a YA. It needed to be middle grade. I got
Yeah.
over 100 rejections.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Were you
So,
querying agents at that time or publishers
yes.
or yeah,
Yep,
okay.
a little of both, mostly agents, but I also started querying small to medium publishers that were actually the ones that were willing to accept, direct submissions from the authors. And it was through one of those small publishers that they gave me the advice, you know what, this would work better as a middle grade. And they actually gave me a referral to my publisher, Chicken Scratch Books, because they
Oh,
only publish middle grade. That is
yeah.
their focus. And in fact, they're so much fun. Their target audience is actually homeschooling families. So they go around to all the homeschooling conventions and they've got courses that go with their books. So Wingless has its own like course and stuff for,
Yay.
literature analysis and stuff. But anyway, that was a fit. And Kiri, the editor there, she was like, "Yep, we like this. You'll have to make some changes, but if you're willing to do that, then we'll take it." So that was how I got Wingless published. It was a journey.
I love it. Okay, so I've never heard of Chicken Scratch Books before. You're the second week in a row that I've interviewed. So Soledad by Mindy, can't remember her
Yes.
last name. Yes, yeah. So that I just interviewed her. It's up right now.
Yeah,
But so I love
that's
it.
I
So cool.
saw
Like,
that.
yeah. I'm like, this is so cool. I've never heard of it, but I love that their target is homeschoolers, and again, they have the courses to go through it. So, because when someone reads, it's like, who's the author? I want to see the author, and then to have extra. So, tell me about the course, and we'll put the links in the show notes to all these things. But tell me about some of the things that you did extra for the course to go with the book.
So the courses is actually two different levels of course that go with the book. So one of them is kind of like mm, there's a virtue topic that gets associated with the book. Now I didn't pick this as an author. After I wrote the book, they have an instructor that comes in and goes through it and goes, you know what, this is the virtue that's really exemplified in this story.
Okay.
It pulls it out and then helps the kids that take the course to really see that in the story, understand it, and it's a bit of a shorter course, and it gives kids a chance to do interviews with their parents and sort of be like, hey, this is what this is about. It's fun. It's quite a bit of fun. And then the other course is the analysis course. It's a little longer, more in depth because it's actually a literature analysis course. It gets into vocabulary and all the things. And I
Yeah.
think the students actually have to write an essay at the end of that one. So they're both online courses that are run through the Chicken Scratch site. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I love it because I speak at writers conference, I mean homeschool conferences, and I tell them the best way if you have a struggling learner, like put away those workbooks, go get a book they love, and then pull out themes and vocabulary words. So I love that's already done. So I'm gonna definitely put this when I add it to my slideshow, put it out there for when I speak because we want kids to read, but then we put
Hmm.
often boring stuff in front of them, and then we're like, "They don't like to read." Well, no, it's not that they don't like to read. Often we don't give them cool, exciting things, and I love that you have your sprites. So let's talk about this and talk about, just give us the premise for the book and, what can a reader expect from it?
Yeah, so at the start of Wingless, we meet Asher Songfeather, who is he's a wingless sprite, and he actually is adopted. So his parents passed away when he was quite small, and he is living with the feather sprites, who are a race of sprites. They're all split up into different races, kind of based on their wing types, right? So the feather sprites obviously have bird wings. But his mother was actually a bat sprite who married a feather sprite, and he looks like a bat sprite would in terms of his hair
Mhm.
color and his skin and all of that, although he doesn't have the wings. And he has his adoptive sister, Karenin, who has been ill for a long
Mhm.
time with an illness that they haven't been able to figure out how to fix. And I don't want to give away too much, but he
Yeah.
wants to help her get better. He finds out early on that she is actually doing very poorly. She doesn't have much longer left. I think she's gonna only a month or two, and she might pass away. So he's really committed to try to fix
Mhm.
things, and he winds up striking a bargain with a newcomer that arrives in the settlement to uh, try to fix her, come up with a cure for her. And this newcomer is a bat sprite, which he doesn't trust bat sprites
We
because
hear
of.
bat sprites are not good.
Well,
We will
they're
see.
certainly not presented that way through
We
Asher's
will
eyes.
we'll see if this is true because I'm already finding out some things that are like maybe they're not as bad as I think they are. We'll see.
Yeah, Asher has a lot of preconceived ideas about bat sprites, and bat sprites definitely their culture, their society has a lot of problems, but things are always more complex with people than first meets the eye. So he has a lot of discovery that happens over the course of the story because of course his sister goes missing and he has to find her. So he goes on a journey. But that
Yeah.
is what you can expect. There's adventure, there's a little bit of angst, there is lots of interesting world building. I know people find it
Mhm.
like the world is fairly complex and there's the different races, and each sprite has a special talent and ability that they have. And Asher, part of his journey is learning how to properly wield his talent because he's never really properly been trained for that. So there's lots of interesting things that happen as the story progresses.
Yeah, and, you talk about the world building, but I think this is a type of series you can totally see, like, now we're gonna have a whole story set in this kingdom or clan or what, because they do these things, and the different sprites have different powers, and then they interact with each other, and there's preconceived notions about the other sprites. I mean, this truly is, and I'm not just saying that, but this truly is, you can just keep going with this world that you built. I mean, so I want to know, did you start, well, you talked about originally you had the story that you took the world. So did you start though with the world when you first started the series, or were the characters there and then you kind of built the world around them?
The first ideas that I had for the story were actually very different. I actually had humans involved with like the
Oh, okay.
tiny the tiny sprites and all of that. And then eventually, as they started fleshing things out, I realized there's so much here with the sprites themselves.
Mhm.
I just
Mhm.
want to focus on that. And I actually pulled from real world history. So like the bat sprites are loosely based on the ancient Spartans. Their
Okay.
society is heavily inspired by that in ancient Greece, and I've got some of the other sprite races have been kind of loosely based on real world cultures as well. And it's interesting you mentioned the idea of like different books being set in different places because book two does take place in the Bat Colony for the majority of the book, and book three is not it's elsewhere. So we are getting
Okay.
to explore some of the different places as we go through the series. It's gonna ultimately be a 4-book series, but
Oh,
I'm
nice.
hopeful there could be spin-offs in the future. There's a lot. It could just keep writing stories in this world. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and once you get readers, that's what they want. They're like, "Okay, where is the next book?"
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, it's so fun, and it is, and also, um, it's whimsical. So, I think sometimes even middle grade, parents are like, "I don't know, this whole fantasy thing, and it's gonna put bad thoughts into." No, I mean, I think they're so fun and light and whimsical. I would totally hand it over to my young grandkids. I think I love that you can totally tell you're thinking of the heart of the reader. I can even see some of the themes, caring for his sister. There's adoption, which we have three biological, and we've adopted seven kids. Like a lot of the themes that we're hearing about are touched in the book. So as you're working on, of course, you want the action, intrigue, character stories. What faith arc or faith element from your own life kind of plays out in the story?
Yeah, so I knew that the approach I wanted to take to my stories, I call it there's the C.S. Lewis approach and there's the Tolkien approach. So
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis and Narnia, of course, it is an overt Christian allegory. And
Yeah.
so the faith elements are very present. In the Tolkien Lord of the Rings universe, it's still a very faith-filled
Mhm.
series, but of course there's no overt faith elements that are
Right.
talked about. And so it can appeal to both Christians and to a secular
Mhm.
audience. And that was the approach I wanted to take. I
Yeah.
wanted a book that anybody could pick up, but that had really good, solid morals at its heart.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's what I sort of strove for in Wingless. And one of the things in the world of Wingless is there's a lot of division, there's a lot of sort of prejudice, and I didn't set out to write a series about racism. That's not what I wasn't. That was not my goal. In fact, the original inspiration I had as a much younger teen, I was so troubled by the divisions within Christianity itself. I
Mm.
was like, why are we so divided?
Yeah.
And we're always fighting amongst ourselves. I I thought there was an easier fix to that when I was younger. I was like, "There's we all just need to get together." And I'm like, "It's a little more complex
Yeah.
than you think it is." As you get older, you realize that. But that was actually the initial inspiration for these divisions among the
Mm,
races. And then as the story progressed, I kind of got into the more personal arcs that the characters follow. Asher is on a journey of needing to, he needs to learn how to forgive. He
yeah.
needs to learn how to recognize where he's wrong and then shift course, And in Wingless, I won't give anything away, but he ends up making some mistakes that he later regrets and he has to fix. And so
Mm,
part of the story that he's on is learning, how do you turn things around when you have maybe made the wrong decision, agreed to do some things with some people that, oh, that was a bad choice. Now what do I do to fix that? And taking responsibility for your actions and making that shift. And it requires humility and willingness to change, which is tricky for adults, let alone for kids
absolutely.
too, right? But I think kids might actually have an easier time than adults on that front. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I love that, like, the heart and the moral compass of the writer always comes through. So just the light, darkness, right, wrong, friendship, family. I mean, all these themes come out of a heart. You can't. I mean, it's just to put that out there, like it's shining in ways that are not. Again, you don't have to have a whole arc about salvation or all these strong things, because those light, darkness, truths will come out even in sprites, even in books about little sprites, which
And
is
I actually would say they almost come out easier because the fact that this is a story about little sprites, it gives you some distance. I
mm,
could not tackle the subjects that I tackle in Wingless if I was writing in a contemporary setting about normal
mm,
human boys and
right,
girls because it would be too heavy. you
yeah,
know you need to have some space. There needs to be some fantastical elements, some lightness that isn't immediately hitting close to home. We don't want our 12-year-olds reading about other 12-year-olds going out and
yeah,
getting involved in like a civil war. Like that's not something we want our kids to have to do. But when you're reading about tiny little sprites in a fantastical setting, it creates a safe space to examine different ideas. um and then like it's each I find that some of the things that I've been dealt with in my own life come through in the arcs that my main character follows. Like book 2, he follows an arc of learning how to forgive himself for some of the
mm,
things that happened in book 1. And like that's an important thing for adults to learn and for kids to
yes,
learn. You
yes,
can't constantly carry around your failures with you all the time through your whole life. You have to learn how to surrender them ultimately to the Lord and let them go, let him take them. And of course I don't give that quite as overtly in my fantasy setting, but there's letting go. You can't carry
yes.
those burdens with you. So
So good. I love that. And I love, as you're talking about, you just totally tell you love this grade. You love the messages that you are giving readers. Is it even more impactful, or maybe impacting your own heart, now that you have a baby and you're thinking of, like, someday she's gonna read these books? Has it changed at all?
maybe a little bit in the sense that like I always had this desire to like have really good messages for kids. Like I knew what I got out of my favorite stories
Mhm.
growing up, and I really wanted to be able to share that with kids. And of course, now I had nieces and nephews at the time that I was writing this that I was like, they're going to be reading this. And of course, yeah, I want to be able to read this. Now that I have my own baby daughter, I'm like, oh, someday someday I'm gonna be she's actually getting to listen to me reading book 3 out loud because she's a captive audience.
I was gonna mention that because you also narrated it,
Mm,
which you did a fantastic job. I'm listening to the audiobook.
thanks.
I did my first one for a nonfiction book. It's so hard. They're like,
It's a
"You pronounce
Yeah.
this wrong, you pronounce this wrong." I'm like, "I didn't even realize I was pronouncing these words wrong, by the way, but now you have to go back and record." It's so much work. So when I started listening, it's like, narrated by the author. I'm like, "Wow, good for you." Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, well, I've especially as I've gotten older, I don't have a lot of time these days to sit down and just read fiction books for fun. So audiobooks, I used to do a lot of
Mhm.
driving, and now these days, I'm doing housework and all the things. So audiobooks are my only way really these days of consuming fiction, and so it was really important to me that Wingless be accessible to people in that
Yes.
medium. I also have a friend who is blind, and so that gave me added I
Mhm.
wanted that to be out there so she could listen to it.
Yeah.
So I sat down and was like, I'm gonna teach myself how to do this because audiobooks are very expensive to
Mhm.
produce if you hire a narrator. And I discovered I actually have a real love of doing this. I enjoy voice acting. I never
Yeah.
had the opportunity to, but it's really fun to really get into the different characters and I have different voices and all of that. It was a blast. Editing it was not a blast. But
Yeah.
that's just, part of the journey. I'm actually getting ready to create the audiobook for Clanless now. I'm re-listening to Wingless actually as right now and just to kind of get it in my brain. Okay, how was I doing the different voices? So that when I start recording Clownless, I can keep it consistent. But yeah, I did a deep dive for a couple of months on learning, getting the equipment, getting the mic, figuring out the space that I was going to record in so it wasn't echoey, learning all the
Yes.
things, getting the program. I like Hindenburg Narrator is a lovely program. It's so easy to use. So that's yeah, that was an interesting thing. But I would love to if I had the time. I would just voice act books for fun. I would put myself out there as a narrator and do it, but I don't have time.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, you're writing books and then you have a family and all the things. Yeah, and
yeah.
I will say, so when I first started listening, like, okay, I'm gonna pay attention because I'm like so impressed that you do this. And then today I was listening as I was cleaning the house. And unpacking, we just moved to a new house, and I'm like, "Oh, I forgot this is her voice." Like, because I listen to audio, so that's a compliment because I listen to audiobooks all the time, and it wasn't like it sounded like someone that didn't know what they were doing. So you obviously did a fantastic job because I was just
Thank
swept
you.
up in the spirit, listening and cleaning and sweeping my floor and like, oh wait, I forgot because I was thinking of the interview today. I'm like, oh yeah, this is her talking. So or and the voice acting, I'm just so impressed. Like yeah, with all that, all the different voices all the time. I'm like, I would not attempt it on my fiction at all.
I think
Yeah,
you have to enjoy it. I've talked to a few authors that yeah, it's not their thing. They've tried it. It drives them nuts. They're just like, nope. But if you enjoy doing it, then hey, it's makes it
yeah.
makes it a little easier, right?
Yeah, most of my books are, like, international settings with international characters. I definitely would not try would
Oh
not try
yeah,
that.
100%. I've got a project right now that's set in an alternate early medieval Ireland, and I will not be trying to voice act that. I cannot do accents, not actual accents. I just can't. Like, no.
Yeah.
So,
Me either. People, like, when they just pick stuff up, I'm like, "I no, I cannot do that." Yeah, and I was
no.
gonna ask, okay, so you're working on edits for book 3. I was gonna ask, like, do you have more coming? But you just let us know that there definitely is other series that you're working on.
Yeah, so well, there's going to be a fourth book in the Wingless cycle, and
Okay.
that'll be the last of that series. While I have ideas for like kind of a prequel idea I'd like to explore with it with some of the other characters. We'll see where that goes. But right now, I actually have a project for older readers. I kind of intend it to be a new adult read, so kind
Mhm.
of people that are like 18 to 24. It's a sweet romantasy set in, like I said, it's an alternate medieval Ireland.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and I'm currently in the midst of querying that. So we'll see where that goes. Like I said, last time I was in the querying trenches, I got over 100 rejections, and I chatted with some agents at a conference recently, and they all told me that romantasy is a little oversaturated right now in the market. It's a bit of a tough sell. So it might be a little while before I can get that out there, but that's okay. It's written. It's
Yeah.
ready to go. And in the meantime, I'll be finishing the Wingless cycle and I have some other ideas. This was my first time writing a romance, so obviously there's no romance in the Wingless cycle because it's a middle
Yeah.
grade series,
Yeah.
but I wanted to try my hand at it because it's writing in the romance genre is a little different than just the fantasy genre. There's
Mhm.
different conventions even in terms of how you structure it, and so I kind of had to learn that and I had fun with it. So I would like to try at least another one. I have an idea in the back of my mind, but I haven't actually settled on if I'm going to do it or not yet, but there's probably more coming down the road with that.
Yeah, and just I love your persistence, like, the fact that you have 100 rejections, like, and it's truly to become a successful author, successful in our own little realm, but is persistence. It's
Yep.
persistence. It's continue to reach out, believe in your story, have confidence, have fun with it, and that will take you far. And looking back, I remember my first three novels were World War II, and people like, but before they're like, no one will ever publish World War II. Well, hello, like how many World War II novels now? Like I don't even know,
Yep.
thousands. Like you open up go into any bookstore, open up Audible, like it's just World War II everywhere. So I'm like, okay.
Yep.
So I was
Markets shift.
on that
Things
trend
change, right?
25 years
It's
early or something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
and this is a reality because I've heard so many authors talk about, especially ones that have been in the industry for a long time. Even if I can't get this romantasy published right now, that's okay. I'll put it in the back drawer and then give it, 5, 10 years. I might actually suddenly be able to get it published at that point, even if I can't do it now, because I've heard a lot of stories of that where it's like, they go on, they can't get this published, so they write something else, they get that published, they pick that up with an agent, and then down the road, their publisher or their agent is like, I really wish I had a story about X, Y, and Z. And they go, oh, hey, I actually have one. It's already written and it's
Yeah,
ready to go.
it's right
And then
there.
they get that one published so many years down the road. So I'm in it for the long haul. I'm like, I love writing. And when the
Mhm.
timing is right, it will work. I'll
Yeah.
just keep writing.
Well, and also there's gonna be people now saying just self-publish it because I wanna read that because that sounds like amazing. So you might have to look into that just like you
I,
do yeah,
I
deep dive
have.
into this audiobook. Yeah, that might be the
uh,
next.
it's funny, I was just chatting with a fellow writer yesterday, I think, who was, I was saying, I actually find self publishing daunting. And they were saying, they're probably going to self publish because the querying process is so daunting for them, all the rejection and everything. And I'm like, I find the querying process strangely fun. Yes, the rejection gets old after a while, but it's, I'm competitive. It's there's
Yeah.
always that hope, and I like the idea of, I like working with professionals. My publisher's been lovely to work with, and I would feel daunted trying to go it alone without that
Mhm.
support. So I'll likely stick
I'll
with
I hire
traditional.
professionals is what I do. I hire
Yes.
professionals to help.
Yeah.
So,
Which
yeah.
of course requires the budget for that.
Exactly. It's like you're gonna have to
Yes.
time or money somewhere,
Yeah.
whether you're querying and attending conferences, whether you're
Yeah.
hiring people, yeah, but
It's
it's
true.
worth
It's true.
it's worth
But I'll
because
keep it in mind, if I have to down the road. It's always an option these
it
days.
is always an option these days, and I will say avid readers, they don't look to the publishers anymore. They just are interested in a story, and they're just all about it, so, yeah.
Yeah. No,
Well,
it's true.
very cool. Well, Catherine, I am so excited, and congratulations because did we mention this? It won the middle grade book of the year, right, from Realm Makers.
Yes, the
And
middle grade category. It was the winner of the Realm Awards
yeah,
this year.
yeah, Realm winner of the Realm Award. And for those who aren't familiar with Realm Makers, it's a speculative fiction. There's a community, there's a conference, and there's hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know, of books that um, are entered into these awards. So this is a very, very high honor. So congratulations. The conference is like 600 people, just of writers, just at the conference. So that just gives you a glimpse of and then not everyone that's in the part of the community goes to the conference. So it's a great community. So congratulations on that. And I'm so
Thanks so
excited.
much.
I'm enjoying this. Again, I'm a adult, a grandma. That's very interested in your little sprite. So you've done a great job. It's super interesting, and I can't wait to get copies to pass on to my grandkids. So great
Oh,
job,
thanks so
and
much.
you're definitely going to be an author that I'm like, okay, we'll just wait for the other stuff and see what else is out there. So yeah, but Catherine, thank you so much for being here. Where can readers and listeners go to find out more information about you?
Probably the best place is my website, which is just catherinewitzaney.com. I also am active on Instagram under Catherine Witzaney as well. So if you want to get more regular updates from me, you can follow me there. But my website is probably the best place to go.
All right, and we'll have all those links in the show notes. But thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.